What's going on, Star Wars fans? Lately, we've seen Daisy Ridley out and about making a big commotion about a lot of things on her tour for another movie, but she's just can't stop talking about Star Wars, so she's given us lots of insight and interesting things to talk about. So
well, I can't stop talking about Star Wars either, and I'm not in it, so that's
fair. I don't blame her. And everybody, naturally wants to ask her about Star Wars, right? So it's naturally coming up. But one thing that's interesting about it is she's definitely given away a lot more than Disney's allowed people to give away in the past, I would say.
That's so true, and we were talking about that. It's very interesting. Disney's usually clamped shut. Even Star Wars, Lucasfilm back in the day has always been very hush-hush.
Right.
George Lucas is notorious for his big reveals, and it's annoying, but whatever. But, we like that mystery as fans. We want to know. We want to know so bad, but at the same point, we all want to be like, what? Right? As we all were when Ray Park was revealed as Darth Maul and Solo. No one knew that was coming, and it was super fun in theaters. So similar things, generally we don't get those sort of hints at what's coming. Usually they're like, it was fun to film, period. So it's interesting that Disney's letting her talk so much.
Well, Kevin Smith, when he went on set, he talked about literally having to sign a bunch of non-disclosures forms, which makes sense.
Right. I'm
sure everybody does.
Exactly. So I have a friend who works in the film industry in California, and he does a lot of work with video equipment. Mm-hmm. And he's been on the set a few times, and he's always telling us, he's like, it's ridiculous. It's like a book that you have to sign. It's not like one signature. It's literally like a booklet of stuff that you're signing.
And I would imagine they would come after you. They wouldn't be afraid to, if you did disclose things that they didn't want disclosed. But
anyways, little off track. Daisy really won't stop talking, so we want to talk too.
All right, I'll read you a couple of the quotes that she said since she's been out. One thing that was really cool, something we've been talked about before, but she says this: genre-wise, it's different from the other two, which will become clear when the film comes out. Interesting. It's quite emotional. There's a different drive than the previous two films, but there's a lot of fun. I really missed John Boyega during the last one, but we're back together, and now Oscar Isaac is part of it, and to me, it feels like the kids going on an adventure. So, like the trailer talked about, we've talked about this. It looked like they were spending more time together on screen.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Daisy pretty much confirms it here. So what does that mean? What does that tell us?
Well, gang's back together. They're going out. I think it's good because it's been missing.
Yeah.
It's been clearly missing the dynamic of the trio, which is always existed in Star Wars, although maybe not clear that, there's a trio and we all know who it was even from the beginning, but we've seen them interact so little, right? I mean, Episode 8 is the first time on screen that Rey and Poe meet up for the first time, even though they technically meet in a comic beforehand.
Yeah, well, it was actually in the novelization of the book.
That's correct.
Or Episode 7, yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting, and it'll be nice to see them together. It'll be fun to see that group dynamic. I'm sad we've missed out on it on the other films, because I think I enjoy watching the first group's dynamic and then carrying that through the films. So I would have liked that more, but I think it'll be fun, and like she said, I think it will heed to more of an adventure, more of a group quest, better than individuals would. And hopefully it means less screen wipes.
Less screen wipes. I think that Poe and Rey could have a really cool friendship. Whether it's a romance or just a friendship, it really doesn't matter. I think their characters, getting to see them interact, will be really cool. Obviously, Rey and Finn have a really good friendship. And yeah, so I don't know. I know we've talked about what this could mean for a lot of other characters, Rose, for example. Also, what it could mean for some of the original trilogy heroes.
Right. Before I jump into that, I just want to make a quick comment because I have to. I don't personally care too much, but I do think it's interesting in Episode 7 there is kind of a... it seems like Poe's kind of crushing on Rey, right? Mm-hmm. Or not Poe, sorry. Finn's kind of crushing on Rey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mistake there. Finn's kind of crushing on Rey. We do see that. Everyone sees it. And then there's that kind of weird line between Rey and Chewbacca, right, in Episode 8.
What to tell
Finn that we don't know what Chewie because said. I don't think we all speak Shriek fluently.
Unfortunately.
We're learning. But, so it'll be kind of interesting to see kind of what that all happens and kind of how their friendship is, or if it's more than a friendship. Not really on like the Finn Rey train, but just in general, be interesting to see how that relationship is developed as friends or whatever, just because they haven't seen each other in so long. But like you said, where are the original trilogy characters? If the gang's all back together going on a trip, where is everyone else? We know Lando's in the film. Where's he? When does he show up in the film?
Yeah, and like you pointed out, you do see him with Oscar Isaac, Poe, in the Millennium Falcon and the Vanity Fair photos for the movie. So it leads you to believe they will be together at some point.
Right.
But to what extent? I've personally wanted Lando to have a pretty big role.
Exactly.
Because it's like, why bring him back if you're not going to,
And he needs to be with Chewie, and Chewie, was he in that shot? I don't believe Chewie's in the shot.
Yeah, no, at the end.
At the end,
with the Death Star.
Yeah,
no.
So I mean,
interesting. So could there be two separate missions? In the old original heroes are kind of off on that with R2D2, with Chewbacca,
with R2D2, R2D2.
Very important that R2D2 gets some love.
If I say it enough, maybe it'll be in the film.
True. I say my prayers every night that R2D2 will be in the film, and he will be very prominent in the film. But
save the day.
No, is it possible? Do you think there could be two separate missions? Like we've seen that in the original trilogy a lot, where in all of them, where you have where you have Han. Like let's use episode 5 for example. Luke's off on his own doing his training, but he does meet up with them, and then they're off at Cloud City doing their thing, and or Return of the Jedi when they go to. Down onto the base.
Fights,
right, exactly. They're on the base trying to destroy the Death Star shield while Luke's actually trying to destroy the Emperor and Vader. So there's room for let's go our separate ways, meet up in the end kind of thing.
For sure. And I mean, I do think that would be interesting, and I think it would be a decent way to show the new kids on the block out there doing their thing, but at the same point also allowing us to see the original trilogy characters more in action.
I agree. Yes, absolutely.
And my theory that I've talked about before with the Force Ghost of Luke being involved heavily in the film. And I think that would be a great way for him to be in the film, not just as passive as maybe Obi-Wan was in the original trilogy.
Yeah, I definitely think Mark Hamill needs more screen time than Alec Guinness's Force Ghost
He's
Obi-Wan.
Been afforded in the entire films.
Well, absolutely. It'll never be made up the amount of time he should have been involved in these movies. But yeah, the only thing I worry about, is that the original trilogy characters, Luke, Leia, I know Leia's going to be difficult, Lando, that they'll be off on their own thing. It would be cooler to me to see them helping the newer kids, like Poe, Rey, Finn, learn how to be the leaders, the next generation, which I know that they really want us to be focused on the new people. I know that's Disney's outlook and everything, but it's hard. It's hard to not want to just focus on our beloved original trilogy characters. Give them good roles. Give them big roles. Make them involved. And I hope they do.
And I think what you say, I definitely have no problem with the original leaders transferring leadership, but also remaining in contact. Like we kind of see that with a little bit with Leia in episode 8 at the end. She kind of says like, you don't need to look at me to follow a good idea from Poe.
Right.
But
which was a cool way of handling it.
It was a cool way of handling it, but I think so often we've seen in episode 7 that with them trying to be like, it's your fight now, quoting Luke.
Right.
That it's their fight, period, end of story.
We're just going to sit back and watch.
We're going to sit back and have heart attacks in the chair.
Yeah.
And I really don't want that. I don't need Leia not to be a strong presence in this film. I don't need Chewbacca not to be in this film. I don't need Lando to make a 5-minute cameo.
Right. Well, that would be really disappointing if that's all he gets, after all of the excitement for Billy D to be back. But yeah. Well, let's talk about, something else that Daisy Ridley said involving, episode 9 on this tour. She said that director J.J. Abrams did say the question is answered. So at the end of the film, you do know what the deal is with Rey's parents. So I'm almost feel like we've been, since episode 7, I feel like we've been beating a dead horse.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm almost tired of talking about it. It's like, it's almost frustrating to even have to still talk about it. But there's obviously a reason they've kept it from us this long, or maybe, hopefully.
A really good reason.
But the fact is it's still getting talked about, and Daisy Ridley is saying that there will be answers, and that tells me it's
at least
not
full closure. Yeah.
Right. So if it is that they were junk traders, like Kylo said, well, we're gonna find out that that's definitely true. Maybe she'll see their graves, something.
Maybe we'll find out exactly their
or
names.
Or we'll find out their names, yeah. Whatever it is. Or what I think more likely it means is that Kylo was lying and that we're going to get a better explanation from it.
And I do think regardless of if you love the explanation of Rey being a no, I don't get that. But if you love that versus if you hated that, I think we can all agree a little more closure would be good. And if you're just like, no, it's fine, I think just the idea that as a whole, Star Wars, to me, I want that community to all, be as wholesome as possible and together as possible. As I like our different opinions, I think that's fun, but I do think even if she has her nobody parents who abandoned her on Jakku, that we at least learn a little bit more besides an offhanded comment that just kind of seems thrown in our face versus actually like an answer.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. It doesn't necessarily feel like an answer. It felt like and if it was just a quick, short, hey, we've been wondering about this for so long, and that's all you're going to give us. Like, give us some names, give us some backstory. I don't know, a little more. But
it was a fun way to like kind of be like, oh, you've been like wondering about this, so really you should have been focusing on those characters rather than wondering, but at the same point it also felt a little just kind of like, hey, we don't care.
Personally, I like the idea that Kylo was just manipulating her. He felt that would be his best shot at getting her to turn to the dark side, is making her feel even more alone. So he lied and manipulated her mind. That's where I like, and I would like to think that we'll find something out more. I'm not saying that she's Luke's daughter. I'm not saying any of that, but I want to find out a little more. I don't necessarily want to make too many theories on it because of how many have been made in the past.
Yeah, we're not going to say theories. I'm just saying it'll be nice to get closure.
It will. Closure's good. Closure's very good. All right, last thing, which actually doesn't come from the Daisy Ridley tour here. It actually comes from a leak on Reddit, which is kind of cool, something that we thought tied in very well. The idea is that this snapshot, which I'll put on screen here, was leaked from a Star Wars, some sort of visual guide.
Likely the one we'll see in episode
probably
9.
Episode 9's visual guide, something along those lines. And it was posted on Reddit under a Star Wars leak. And the interesting thing about it is it takes you through the timeline of Rey, and it mentions how she was abandoned on Jakku. But what's really interesting is the small writing under abandoned says, a tiny Rey watches helplessly as a starship pulls away, marooning her on the unfamiliar world of Jakku. Unfamiliar obviously being the biggest key word there, that makes you think about, or almost confirms that, I should say, she's not from Jakku, right? It's an unfamiliar world to her. She was dropped off there.
Right. So her parents could have just still been junk traders who were like, let's drop this piece of junk off at Jakku.
She was the junk
they were trading. Junk they were trading that time. Or it could be more. But I think either way, it's interesting to be like, she's not from Jakku.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see exactly where she's from then, you know?
I would think that if they're going to resolve who her parents were, we might find out a home planet of Rey's if it's not Jakku. I just thought, I don't know what you guys thought. I don't know what you personally thought, but I always assumed she was born on Jakku and that her parents left her on Jakku. I'm not saying everybody was with me on that, but that's what I thought until looking at this. I think
there's no reason to necessarily assume differently.
Yeah.
I guess unless you're just like hardcore on like she's a Kenobi or she's a Skywalker, so you would assume that she was wherever she was. But even if she is a Skywalker, a Kenobi, a Solo, etc., like the last battle of the war between the Empire and the Rebels was fought on Jakku, which is not when she was born, but so I guess I personally had never really cared where she was from. That hadn't been something that had crossed my mind. I guess I just always assumed like, yeah, probably Jakku.
Yeah.
If you weren't given the information, why I assume different?
And there was the Emperor had a lot of ties to Jakku as well, so I know a lot of theories stemmed from
cloning,
that.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like there's lots of dark side presence underneath the grounds in the towards the planet core of Jakku. So there's lots of interesting things on that. But yeah, it's very interesting to.
All right, quick. Where's she from?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know that. I have lots of ideas on what. I think it depends on where her parents are.
Coruscant. That's my guess.
Coruscant.
I mean, just quick thought is on Jakku. She seems very unfamiliar. She's not used to a desert planet, so it's not Tatooine. It's not the couple of planets we've been introduced to in the trailer. Is my guess for Rise of Skywalker. So I'm saying Coruscant. It'd be fun. It'd be cool. I'd love to see Coruscant in the film anyways.
Yeah.
Cool tie to maybe Palpatine in the Old Republic.
The thing that intrigues me, though, or that catches me, I guess, is that if she had to have gotten to Jakku at a very young age, the snippet we see where Unkar Plot's holding her and, like, her parents are leaving in a ship, it makes me think that, like, they were dropping her off at that point. But the other thing that she says, she seems old enough and aware at that point, she says in episode 7 that when they get to Takodana that she's never seen this much green and didn't know there was this much green in the whole galaxy. So that kind of led me to think she'd only been around deserts. She'd only been around, so that's what confuses me there. If she was getting dropped off on Jakku there, she was old enough to probably remember other planets.
Well, I think there's a good chance that maybe she was, I don't know, let's pretend she's born on the, like, Camino rains all the time. Okay, it's not green. But a forest planet, like Endor, Kashyyyk, etc. But then her parents raised her on Jakku for a little bit. Or if she was flying around on a starship all the time.
It says that she was abandoned on an unfamiliar world.
True. Okay.
I don't know. It's so...
Born in a starship.
It almost doesn't add up. Yeah, born in a starship in space. Never been to a planet.
Just bounced around with her parents, but never really left the ship. At trading outposts.
Or she's a clone and... Well, cloning's Camino. There you go. But I don't know.
All right. Well, just let us know. Put us down in the comments where she's from because we can't figure it out.
Oh, we're clueless. Apparently we're not the only ones. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you guys think about some of the things that Daisy Ridley said. And obviously where you think she might actually be from, since she, if this leak is true, is not from Jakku. Hope you guys have a great week. May the Force be with you. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe because...
It is your destiny.